Welcome everybody to the Sounds About Right podcast, where we 100% give zero fucks. I'm your boy Nibs520. I got my mans with me this weekend. We are full, ready to go, back to normal. We got the financial finesse man, Jeremy, in the building, and our country fried white boy Christian. Welcome to the show, fellas. Welcome back. Everybody is good and healthy and looking all right. How y'all doing today?
I can't complain. Nice Sunday morning. About to talk some news, some stats, some football, some
Hey man,
finance.
you doing well because you winning money over here. I'm losing my money over here. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. I
Hey,
appreciate you for
need to
rubbing
check
it
with
in.
me before you place a bet.
Yeah, well, I gamble. You bet. There's a difference.
Right.
Yeah. Christian, what's going on with you, man? How's that
Hey,
baby?
getting bigger and bigger every day, man. Every day we get to wake up is a blessing, you know.
Yeah.
No
That's right.
complaints over here.
For for those of who are listening to us, Christian's baby girl ran our team meeting this week. We had earlier in the week. She was very upset that she wasn't being included, and she let it be known. And we had to make adjustments. I want to issue a formal apology myself. Yeah. Hey man, thanks for everybody being with us. Sorry about the delays this morning, fellas. A little chicken debacle last night had me feeling some kind of way. So all right, let's jump right into it, man. We had Deshaun Watson on the brain last week. We talked about the situation with him and the updates. Again, it seems like this is an ongoing update with him. Just to kind of get everybody touched right back up. Judge Sue L. Robinson found that Robinson committed 4 instances of nonviolent sexual assault. Again, though she was only considering four of the cases against him, not all 24. Those findings are binding on the appeals process, which is what we're currently going through. She also found that he wasn't truthful with investigators initially, and she described his conduct as egregious and predatory, and levied a suspension of 6 games with no fine initially. Now, that is currently what we're talking about now because the NFL apparently was not happy with that. They're coming back appealing it. They want a big fine plus an indefinite suspension. So Roger Goodell jumped in and said, "Hey, nah, look, we're not having that. He's got somebody else looking at it now, and that's kind of where we are." I want to get your take on this, fellas. Jeremy, I want to lead with you, man. What do you think about one, the initial, fine and or it's not fine, but suspension, and then, what do you think of the appeal and where that's going to go?
I mean, 6 games and no financial penalty. I think it's somewhat lenient to what he's being accused of, but it's the NFL, and the NFL now they have new policies, and they're pretty much going to make the adjustment based on the popular opinion. So I'm pretty much the masses. They didn't like it, so it sounds like the NFL was pushing for a full year, maybe 8 to 12 games with a high fine, but they're going to lose money regardless how it goes because this quarterback is going to put people in the seats, and with him going, I don't even know who the backup is, to be truthful. So they're lost without him.
Don't piss off Christian. He is a Jacoby Brissett fan. Let's keep it. Let's keep the gloves on, fellas.
Yeah, Jacoby Brissett is okay, but he's no Deshaun Watson. You know what I'm saying?
This is true. Yeah, I mean for everything that's going on right now, he is a generational talent. So we'll give him his flowers there. But he's got a lot of shit going on. And yeah, Jacoby Brissett isn't him. But I want to ask you this, right? You said that you thought it was a light suspension. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Like why you thought it was a little bit lighter, or why it should have been more?
Well, in this climate, if a judge is going to call somebody somewhat a predator and you only get 6 games with no fine, that's kind of lenient, wouldn't you say? You over here feasting on women and you ain't getting no reprimand like that.
Yeah, yeah. Now Christian, before I ask my next question, I just want to get your equal take on that. Like, what do you feel about one, the initial judgment by Sue L. Robinson, and then what's going to go on with the appeal? Do you agree with the initial situation, or are you like, hey, thank God the NFL is appealing that?
I would follow up with what Jay said on talking about it. None of it adds up, right? If this is really what he did, and they really think he did it, 6 games, who's that going to hurt? His checkbook for a couple months? That's, I don't know what that does. That just shows you that don't get accused of anything, right? I don't know. We talked about last week, the lack of evidence. You can't charge the man. And in that case, I don't know what the NFL is doing. They're only going to hurt their own brand, in following this further. They can't use any new evidence, I believe is what the process says.
Yeah.
I think that's more in line with the correct punishment if he did what they're claiming he did, but I still fall back on the lack of evidence. And also the people that want to come to Browns games are going to be at the Browns games anyway. I don't think that makes a difference.
Yeah, I mean, the saying is we're taking the Browns to the Super Bowl for a reason, right? Because they're shit. But let's dive into that a little bit really quickly. I know we want to move on and get things moving this morning, but really quickly, I think the court of the public opinion is leading the argument on both sides of this, right? We can all, I think, pretty much agree on that. That if it wasn't for the court of public opinion, we wouldn't even be talking about Deshaun Watson right now. Let's be honest, because I think just the sheer number of women that are involved in this case is what is driving this. Like, people are automatically assuming that he's guilty because there are a large number of women attached to the cases that he's dealing with, right? I think if we were looking at, when this all started, as we touched on last week, there was one person, right, that initially came to him and said, hey, this is what it is. Then a whole bunch of other people jumped on. If we were talking about that initial one case, we probably wouldn't even be talking about it too much. They would have dealt with this and moved on. The crazy part that I find is this, right? Is that, and I want to clarify this for those that are listening. The NFL is not a court of law. They do not have to find him guilty of the actual act of being a sexual predator. The only thing they need to determine is whether or not he violated the NFL's conduct policy, right? That's the only evidence that they need to consider. They don't need to prove that he did anything other than break their rules, right? So if we take that into consideration, do you think, let's say he's guilty, right? Let's say he's guilty of any one of these acts. What do you guys feel would be the appropriate punishment? Christian, well, let's start with you.
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, I think number one, I guess they should put it in bold at the top of the conduct policy. Don't make the NFL look bad, right? Because that's number one. You can't make the NFL look bad. Otherwise, they're just going to bend you over. I mean, if he was found guilty, it's hard to compare the two, coming from the NFL to, a legal standpoint, because legally he may go to jail for years, right? But if we're talking about legal aspect out of it, the NFL won't suspend him for multiple years for this because they're his their toy, right? It's like, oh, we got Deshaun Watson. We want to make him the best he can be and make as much money as we can from him. So I don't know. I think that they think he's guilty, and they want to do that year suspension with the fine, and then that mandated. They said something about mandated counseling or therapy or whatever it is. I think they would stick with that. I would say if he truly was guilty, that may be a little lenient, but they're looking out of their bottom line. Number one, I would say if he truly did it, probably stick him with 2 years. And by then, who knows if he still wants to play football.
Now, would you consider the year he set out as part of that, or would you say 2 years from now?
I would, yeah, I would consider him sitting out. I don't think the
Okay.
NFL would, but I would.
Jay, now I want to switch it up with you. Let's say they levy this, punishment on him, right? Let's say the NFL gets what they want. Let's say they get a year. He has to sit out another season, right? They I think their request was 8 million. Yeah, they wanted 8 million in fines, right? So let's say they levy this 8 million. They get the additional year. After that time, we find out he didn't do anything wrong. Then what should the NFL do in that case, Jay?
Well, if that's the case, the NFL already made the decision, and they can't actively do anything.
Yeah.
So Deshaun Watson is the one who got to make a move, and what he'll do is sue the NFL because remember, from the very beginning, this man is not remorseful because he never said that he was guilty of anything that he's being accused of. He didn't admit to any guilt, which is the part that I find intriguing because he settled out of court because he thought technically it seemed like a cash grab, but he doesn't want to do counseling because he doesn't feel he did anything wrong in the first place. So I actually respect him being consistent with his innocence.
Now, since you brought that up, right before him going into his first preseason game, he did actually issue an apology right before playing his first preseason game against the Jags, stating, and this is what it said: "Look, I want to say that I'm truly sorry to all of the women that I've impacted in this situation. The decisions that I've made in my life that put me in this position, I would definitely like to have back. But I want to continue to move forward and grow and learn and show that I am a true person of character, and I'm going to keep pushing forward." Now, that's the statement in its entirety that was given for the apology, right? That was issued during an interview with, I think, just the Browns news people, right? He doesn't admit guilt there, right? He falls short of saying, "Hey, I did anything wrong." What he's
Right.
saying is if my actions hurt the women in this case, I apologize for that. Is basically what he's saying, right? The According to multiple sources, this is all part of a compromise that the Players Association and the league are coming to in lieu of the Players Association suing the NFL and the NFL seeking that appeal. They're going to come to some kind of agreement because the independent arbiter that the league assigned directly in response to Sua Robinson's findings has pushed out his decision because he thinks the two sides are going to make a compromise. So one, I think the apology in this case, right, is strictly to say is probably just part of that deal.
Right.
Now, let's say he gets this, they get a deal struck up, right? What do you think the terms of that should look like? If you were on the NFL side, and then Christian, you were on the Deshaun Watson side, what would you be asking for, fellas? Let's start with Jay.
If and I'm on the NFL side.
Yeah,
Oh,
if you're if
I
you're
mean,
if you're trying to reach a compromise, right? Not because you're initially, and we're talking about you're initially asking for a year and 8 million, but you're trying to compromise with the Deshaun Watson side. What would your counter be? I guess.
well, we'll just split it in half instead of the whole year. We'll just do a roundabout number about 8 games. 8 games, and we'll split the penalty in half too. We'll do 8 games, 4 million.
Okay. And what would your response to that be, Christian? If you were on the Deshaun Watson side of this thing?
I would tell him that that's probably the best he's going to get, and that he should take it. That's it's only going to get worse from here.
Right.
If you can come to that, it's the same. It's the same situation with him settling out of court. Are you going to spend the time to fight this? Are you going to spend the money? Are you going to end up losing out more? Or are you just going to deal with it? And I do want to mention that this apology is like how I apologize to my girl when I think I'm not wrong, right? And I just have to say something, otherwise I'm sleeping on the couch. Like that's what this feels like to me. Because it's BS, right? He's not saying anything. He said, "I'm sorry." Sorry to who? The women he didn't do anything to? Come on, man. It's the same way I talk to my girl. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. So basically, what you're saying is he's trying to avoid the couch in this situation.
Exactly. Yeah. He's trying to make the NFL happy as much as possible. Someone told him, just if this is what they want, do it. It's going to be better for you in the long run. You can put it behind you in a couple months and just move on. And that's it would be best for everyone.
So it's actually funny because you guys are almost dead on as what they're actually negotiating, right? So Watson's side is, I guess he's reportedly willing to accept 8 games and $5 million. So that's almost exactly what you said, right? He's willing to pay an extra $1 million to stay off the couch, Jay. Then I guess to your point, Christian, right? This does sound like, like you said, we're trying to avoid being on the couch the whole year, right? We're trying to avoid being in the doghouse. Again, it did sound like a scripted apology. If you're just looking at it, I didn't actually watch the interview. Is everybody just as fans? I want to ask you this just as fans now, right? Let's say they get that 8 games, $5 million. Are you guys cool with that, Christian?
Fuck no, I'm not cool with that. Absolutely not. But you know what? If that's what it takes to get him playing football again, he's gonna take it. But it's horseshit, man. That makes me mad because he shouldn't have to. If he didn't do it and they don't have any evidence, he shouldn't be taking this. But he's going to because he's going to lose a bunch of money if he doesn't. I don't know. It's just the nature of the world we live in now.
I agree with Christian 100%. I can't say nothing extra.
Now, here's what I do want to say is that, I want people to understand. We're not saying that if he did do anything, I'll speak for myself. If any of what he's being accused of is true, then I don't think Deshaun Watson should be playing in the NFL, period. Because there's plenty of talented players that don't abuse women that can play the game, right? I've never been for that, so, that's the way I feel on that part. However, right now, Deshaun Watson is an innocent man. He hasn't been convicted or even charged with a crime. He paid civil suits. Anyone, as a person who's gone through both the civil and criminal court, I can tell you that they are completely different things. Right. The evidence that you need in civil court is night and day to what is needed in criminal court. And for those who are looking at it as, oh, well, he's paying out civil lawsuits in court, he must have did something wrong. All civil court is money, right? So you have to consider, like Christian alluded to earlier, what's going to cost more money? Do I take all 24 of these cases to, all the way through just to prove that I didn't do anything wrong? Or do I pay the smaller settlement amount just to get it out of my hair? Because either way, I'm paying, right? That's what civil court is. Civil court is just money. If Christian breaks my laptop and I take him to court, I have to consider how much is it going to cost me to fight that case and how much that laptop is, right? Because is it worth it to get my money back from him? Or we can just step outside. You know what I mean? And I'm bigger than Christian, but I'm old. So, I got to weigh those options. You know what I mean? So I want everybody to understand we're not saying that if he did do something, but we're looking at it as he's innocent right now. Go ahead, Jay.
If he pays the 5, where does the 5 go?
Wherever the NFL wants it to.
Oh, so it possibly can't even go to the victims.
I'm pretty sure that they'll get a piece of it. Or maybe the NFL will donate to some kind of charity for, battered or abused women, something like that. Probably. That's usually what their MO has been in the past.
Okay, if you say so.
Yeah. And here's
Having
another
somebody
thing,
put it
right?
in their pocket.
That's where the Sue L. Robinson thing is coming into place. Like everybody's saying, everybody was expecting a higher penalty, right? But she's doing it based off of what the NFL has done in the past.
Right, right.
My biggest problem with the punishment and also the appeal has nothing to do with Deshaun Watson at all. It is the NFL's lack of consistency in which they are punishing people, right? People were drawing comparisons to Ray Rice and also the Ben Roethlisberger situations, when they've been discussing this on the big networks. And the difference I'll say is this: there was a lot of evidence that Ben Roethlisberger had committed a crime. However, he did go to court, was found not guilty. He was an innocent man, right? They still suspended him 6 games, then reduced that to 4. Ray Rice, we all saw the video. We all know what that is, right? But before the video became public, Ray Rice went to the NFL. He told them exactly what they were going to see in the video, told them exactly what happened. He didn't pull any punches, didn't try to make himself look any better.
Oh, he surely didn't pull any punches.
Right. I said that on purpose. I'm glad y'all caught that. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Yeah. I lobbed that up. Christian knocked it out the park. So he went in there and told them exactly what it was he did. They levied a fine and suspension. Then the video comes out, and now that the court of public opinion jumps in, they say, "Oh, we got to kick you out of football." Right. So to me, there's the lack of consistency. This you got one guy who was 100% honest with you, told you exactly what the hell happened. You gave him an initial ruling. Then you came back on your word later and said, well, now that people can see it, you got to go. Ben Roethlisberger was the reverse. People could see what he was doing because there was video of it, right? But you know what? You didn't get proven guilty, so we'll just slap you on the wrist. It's the scales are uneven there. And it seems to be repeating itself here with the Deshaun Watson case. Because, again, until this man is proven guilty, and I want to see what evidence they're basing this on. Because if they're taking the same evidence that these grand juries are considering, and they're saying, yeah, no, you're a predator, I just want to know what it is that the grand jury is looking at then. Because the grand jury seems to disagree with you. So, we could probably have that debate till the cows come home.
Yeah, to end this point, just the conduct of the NFL itself, you're asking a demographic of people to do better than the normal standard. So in the majority, think about this. You got 20-something-year-old, and I'm just saying the majority, 20-something-year-old African American, semi-literate, rich people. And you think they're gonna abide by the law more than a regular person? They're just football players. What you think these people are?
Yeah, you look at Henry Ruggs'
These ain't
situation.
geniuses. These are just regular people.
Yeah.
And spoiled regular people at that, semi-literate, spoiled rich people who's been privileged since college, possibly since high school. You can't tell half of these people anything.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, you could take the most literate 20-year-old, give them $20 million, and see what the hell they don't do with it, right?
Right.
Yeah. On the football side of things, hold on. Before we do this, right? I have a question. In this, in the lieu of trying, being canceled, let's just ask it straight out. Do you believe Deshaun Watson is guilty? Christian, I
No.
want to get your side of that.
No, not based on what I've seen.
Okay. Jay?
No. That's an easy one. Nope.
Do I think maybe some hanky-panky happened in a couple of the massages? Maybe. I think maybe somebody was upset they didn't get what they wanted. And, they ran some money on him. don't think you should get kicked out of the NFL for that, though.
Yeah.
All right. Now, for the game, back playing for the first time, because until this gets solved out, he can actually play ball. The three-time Pro Bowler completed 1 of 5 passes for 7 yards in his first game since January of 2021 when he
We
was
ain't
with
going
the
to no Pro
Houston
Bowl
Texans.
like that.
Damn straight ain't.
What he been doing? Sitting on the couch?
Who knows? You know what they say. These guys are supposedly staying in football shape. It's hard to be in football shape if you're not actually out there playing the game. It's one thing to be out there throwing to your buddies, but throwing in a game, people coming at you, it's different.
Right.
Do I think if everything goes Deshaun Watson's way and he ends up being able to play, do I think he'll get his shit together? Yeah, because he's an otherworldly talent. But he had a bad first game. With that, what else did you guys see from the preseason that you were either impressed with or unimpressed with? Jay, we're gonna lead with you just because you the only other person who wore a hat today. Christian didn't bring his.
Sorry, I got good hair. Okay.
Speaking of the Jets game, they played Philly. So my quarterback Zach Wilson got hurt with a bone bruise. He's out 2 to 4 weeks. So on the other side of that, the Philly quarterback Jalen Hurts, he played 1 possession and I think he went 8 for 8. Now Philly is going to be a tough match this year because they actually got another wide receiver to go with their defense, and they got Bradbury and Slay at quarterback, so they might be something to look at for the NFC. And Trey Lance in San Francisco, he threw a bomb starting early.
That boy's gonna be dangerous, man.
Mm-hmm.
What are your since you watched that game, right? And just because you guys played Philly really quickly, what are your thoughts on Jalen Hurts, just from what you've seen?
Well, I follow Jalen Hurts in college. I like Jalen Hurts just the way he when he transferred from one college to the next, and he was professional about it, and he's still a college kid. And he came into the NFL, he still had that same professional poise at a young age. And plus, he's a gym rat, so he's always in shape. You ain't got to worry about him doing some Deshaun Watson shit possibly off the field. So I think they got a good guy for the next 10 to 12 years in Philly.
Have you seen him? Like they got pictures of him online. Like that dude is jacked. Like
he squats a lot, does all that lower body stuff.
Yeah, he looks like he could be a bodybuilder. Christian, how about you, man? What did you see so far? Or what are you hearing so far in the preseason that's got you impressed or not impressed?
So every year, I feel it comes back to there's a question of should we even have a preseason? We talk about injuries. We talk about how often that sort of thing can happen. I start thinking, why are we still doing this? Right? Don't they play enough games? Don't they get enough practice? Are you giving them just all this additional time to get hurt? But then you see like my team, the Colts, play, and they were okay, but they're not there. They're not in rhythm. They need more production. So it's tough to say. I don't really like the preseason. I don't think it's good for the players. Right? It's good for the NFL, but I don't know. Football's always good. I'll watch football anytime. You put it on, I'm watching it, even if it's shitty preseason football. But
I mean, that's a huge debate, bro. Like, whether or not to play preseason games. I mean, that shit's been going on since we were kids. But back then they played 5. They had
Is it 5? 3?
Yes, 3. But it's 3 now because they added a game
extra
to the schedule.
Game.
Right.
Yeah, because it was 4. Yeah.
Right.
5, 4, and then 3.
Me personally, as a person who played football, like when I was playing it, we loved the extra games. Like, I don't know if people know this, but even preseason games are at every level, except for like Pee Wee ball. But like high school, college, they all have them, right? Like they all have these, preseason games. In high school, we had 3, when I was in high school, and we loved it because we got to hit people. But I think it's good for the NFL for a couple of reasons, right? You get to see your rookies. You get to see guys who may or may not make the roster. I think it's more important for them than the veterans who've been there. You know what I mean? Like, you know what they can do. Like, if you're a Khalil Mack, if you're, I mean, let's face it. Tom Brady's probably playing in the last preseason game for a quarter just to warm up. You know what I mean?
Right.
But we don't need to see what Tom Brady can do. He's been fucking doing it. So, but when you get that 7th round guy out of Tallahassee State, community college,
You got
you
to
know what I
see what
mean?
he's about.
Right. I think that's what the preseason is more about for me anyway. Like, I like watching the guys you haven't really heard of because they went to smaller schools maybe, or they didn't play at the Power Fives, and then you see some guy come. What was it? What was the dude from the Giants? Victor Cruz. Remember him? He had
In the preseason, yeah, and he went
right,
off.
right. The running back for the Broncos that was like all time TD. Terrell Davis.
Terrell Davis.
Man, they weren't even going to put him on the roster, and then the next thing he's one of the greatest running backs they've ever had. So
Thank
I
God for
think
preseason.
right. To me, I think that's what the preseason is for. Should the guys who already got their contracts be out there playing? Nah. All right, fellas, we got a list that I ran up on a few weeks, but yes, look, okay, everybody's got their GOAT list. I think every sport, no matter hell, even R&B singers, people will argue who's the GOAT of that. You know what I mean? And will cut you over Marvin Gaye. I'm trying to tell you. But the NFL came out with a GOAT list. They did both offense and defense. And I'm here to tell you, I don't agree with half of this shit. But we're going to dive in. But let's start with offense, right? Everybody, because it seems like on the offensive side, they had a lot more runner-ups than I think the defensive side was maybe a little bit just easier to deal with, right?
Right.
Let's start with it, man. Quarterback. Before we give you, here's how I want to do this. Before we give what the NFL's list was, I want to hear from y'all, right? Who's your GOAT at quarterback? Jay, I'm gonna start with you, man. Because the Jets have never had a GOAT.
It's Tom Brady.
Tom Brady?
I ain't even gonna hate. It's Tom Brady.
Why is it Tom Brady?
His consistency, and undoubtedly he's a leader. He's Derek Jeter. You know he's the man. Like Derek Jeter had a bunch of good teammates and managers and all that stuff. But who was the man throughout the whole run?
Leave it to a New York guy to bring in Derek Jeter. I knew it was going to happen.
And he wasn't even the best player on the team.
I'll give you that.
Unfortunately, it's going to have to be Tom Brady. And I don't like saying that, okay? If it was up to me, because I would be biased and opinionated and wanting to prove everyone wrong, if I had to draft, one quarterback for my franchise, I'm going to say Peyton Manning because I'm an idiot, right? Because I love the man. To me, that was my GOAT. But I think Tom Brady's done a good job of proving that it wasn't the system he was in. It wasn't Bill Belichick. It was him. He was the man. Everyone doubted him, and here he is. That don't mean I don't hate him. Let me make that very clear. I can't stand him at all. If he would just retire already, that would be great. He could have just stayed retired, But here we are. Give the man, what's due. It's Tom Brady.
Now, our Miss Everything in the background, our production manager, Tanya, who is a big homer. She's a New York fan through and through. I just want everybody to know, she did point out that, he did lose twice to Eli Manning in the Super Bowl. That's great. Yeah. But Eli Manning isn't even a runner-up, Tanya, so we'll go with that. I will go over what the NFL's GOAT list was. They did, they agree with you guys. They put Tom Brady as number one. I went back over the list. There were only 2 runner-ups. They had Joe Montana and Peyton Manning.
Mm.
I disagree with all of you. And
Well,
before I give my
we
opinion,
always knew
right?
you were going. It's fine.
Yeah. Before I give my opinion, I want to say something. I'm not a Tom Brady hater. Like, I don't like the teams he's played for, but I'm not a Tom Brady hater. And the reason I'm not a Tom Brady hater is because he wasn't this prima donna quarterback that was getting all this love coming out of college. He wasn't babied and pampered. He came into the Bill Belichick system. He did it the right way, right? He just played his ass off, won games. You got to respect the dude. He's a dude, right? However, he's gotten some assistance along the way, right?
Who hasn't?
There's literally a Tom Brady rule in the NFL now. Like, you, because of Tom Brady, and
I didn't
let's
know
be
we were
clear,
going there.
because of Tom Brady, you can't hit quarterbacks anymore. Unless they're named Cam Newton or Ben Roethlisberger. And I think they're both out of the league right now. You can't even sniff a quarterback's knees. I think there's a window now. Like, you can only hit them in a certain spot. Like, come on, bro. That's not football. That's target practice. Like, let's call it what it is. And we had this conversation off camera. If Tom Brady, if we're putting him on and to me it's the same as the LeBron and Jordan conversation, which we're not going to get into because that'll be all day. If you take Tom Brady and you put him in with the other GOATs that were playing when they were still football players, quarterbacks that is, he's not the GOAT. So I can't consider him the GOAT all time. Maybe in our era. In our lifetime, in our era, yes, Tom Brady hands down. For me, it's Joe Montana. And the reason I say it's Joe Montana is I get it. A lot of people will lead to how many times he's gotten there, how many rings Tom Brady has. My thing is this: if you get to the ship, I want to see how you play when it matters. I get it. Regular season, people will say Peyton Manning because he's arguably the best regular season quarterback of all time. You can't even argue that when you look at the stats, right? How did Peyton Manning play when it mattered? And yeah, I get it. He had to do stuff to get him there. But when it mattered, he choked a lot. He did it in college. He did it in the NFL. He has 2 Super Bowls because he had 2 great defenses, period. Joe Montana, those teams don't win Super Bowls unless he's their quarterback, period. And he showed out each time.
I disagree. Because when he left, they won a Super Bowl with Steve Young. How did that happen?
How many Super Bowls did Steve Young go to after that?
He went to 1. And let's not forget, you got Jerry Rice on that list, the number 1 wide receiver ever, right? And then you got Bill Walsh, who was the innovator of the West Coast offense when there wasn't a West Coast offense. They was using an offense that was freshly invented. One of the best coaches at that time. He was the best coach. Same thing like Tom Brady. So he leaves and they still win a chip, and you still want me to say he's better? Nope. Nope.
I can't save you on this, Nigel. Sorry about
that. I want to lead with this, right? And I get all that. I really do. And I love it.
You say that, but it doesn't seem like 2 plus 2 is not equaling 4 for you right now.
What happened
when Tom Brady was hurt, the New England Patriots went 11-5 with Matt fucking Castle,
and didn't win a Super Bowl.
Matt Castle is a high school quarterback at best, and they go on 11-5. It's the system, bro.
And Joe Montana went to the Chiefs and didn't win.
People are giving Tom Brady all this love for winning, but going to Tampa Bay, right? Jameis Winston damn near had them in the playoffs, and he is nowhere near Tom Brady. Let's be really clear.
Jameis Winston throws as many interceptions as he does touchdowns.
What I'm saying to you is this: all the Tampa Bay Buccaneers needed was a quarterback to win a Super Bowl. Let's be really clear. That was the argument the entire time Jameis was there. Why? Because you had a system on offense, all these weapons, right? Tom Brady, the only thing that changed about the Buccaneers when they won the Super Bowl and when they didn't the previous year is the quarterback. You could have put any decent quarterback in there
Hold
who
on, how
doesn't
many
throw.
Super Bowls? How many touchdowns Gronk had in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I was gonna say there's two
Did he
people
had
that you got to
two or
take in there.
three touchdowns?
Okay,
Was he
they
on the
got
team too?
And why was Gronk there? Let's talk about that. Because Tom
Right.
Brady called his drinking buddy and said, "Hey man, I need you to do it for me again." So
How
you're
many
not gonna.
Super Bowls
No
did
one else
Joe
was going
Montana
down there
win with the
anyway.
Chiefs?
all right. So let's move on to the next
Thanks, Jenkins, and let's move on. That's fine.
next position because we all know Rex Grossman is the best quarterback of all time. All right, so
Oh,
let's go into running back, and this
Jim
time
Brown.
I do want to give it. I want to give NFL their flowers for actually getting this list actually really right. Their pick for the GOAT is Jim Brown. Now the runners up is, I mean, pretty much you can. If you named any of these guys, I probably wouldn't argue with you too heavy. The runners up are Barry Sanders, Walter Payton, Emmitt Smith, Marshall Faulk, Eric Dickerson, and LaDainian Tomlinson. I mean, what do we think of this list right here, Christian? Let's leave with you, man.
I'm more of a Barry Sanders kind of guy, but I'm not arguing that. It's like you said, you can put any one of them up there, and you're going to have an argument, right? It's not. You could argue it one way or the other, and you'd have reason to do so. But any of them are well deserving. But Jim Brown, hard to argue that at all.
And I do want to say that of all the offensive positions, this list was very evenly voted, right? So it wasn't like Jim Brown won this going away. He was just the person who got a couple more votes, and then the votes were pretty much even amongst the runners up. So I do want to say that. Jay, what are you thinking? You agree with Christian on this?
I think Jim Brown should have been even more of a landslide. Just considering Jim Brown's last season with the Cleveland Browns, he was also the offensive coordinator.
That's true. Yeah. Didn't take that into consideration. I will say this though, and I almost throw up in my mouth a little bit saying this because I'm a Bears fan, but I do have to kind of agree. But for me, again, I didn't grow up in an era where I got to watch Jim Brown, right? I watched his highlights, right? I saw Barry Sanders juke the shit out of Hall of Fame defensive players, he was a video game, bro. Like his best highlight is the Jim Lynch highlight, right? We all saw that. Lynch has this dude literally looking like it's going to be a highlight for him. He's getting ready to blast the shit out of Barry Sanders. He's probably an inch away from him. And the next thing you know, he's on the ground looking up backwards, and Barry Sanders is in the end zone. Like, it's one of those things. I've seen him juke people that in a way you shouldn't be able to, but then also run people over. Like, people give him all this love for all his moves, but people forget for his size, Barry Sanders was a powerful running back. Obviously, Walter Payton, rest in peace, is just to me, Walter Payton is the guy that shouldn't have been, right? He didn't have all the talent in the world, but he worked his ass off and, got where he was. To me, the only problem I have with this list is I think I would kind of replace Marshall Faulk, but I can't argue what he contributed to the game. So, but yeah, it's a bang out list. I think
But replace him with who?
I would just take him off the list, to be honest with you. Yeah.
No, I put him above LT, LaDainian.
I could see that. I really could. You know what I mean?
So you're going to have to take out LaDainian and keep Marshall.
The argument I have against Marshall is actually almost the same argument I have for keeping him on there. So it's one he's an on the fence guy for me, right? Like I looked at him as more of a receiver who got to play running back, you know what I mean, because of what he did to the game. But then I have to say, well, because of what he did to the game, both running and receiving, you leave him where he's at. You know what I mean? So it's a thing I go back and forth with. I know it doesn't make any sense, but
LT wasn't he the same type of running back?
Exactly, and it's one of those things. But I've seen LT truck more people than I've seen him, not. So I got a soft spot for him just because he played on the Chargers, and they were horrible. And I also look at that too, right? Like to me, Barry Sanders is the best player who didn't win his championship. You know what I'm saying? Him and Megatron. The thing that sucks for them is they got drafted to the fucking Lions. So
there you go.
Let's face it. If you put Barry Sanders on, because him and Emmett were playing at the same time, you put Barry Sanders on that Dallas Cowboys team with that line they had back in the day, please. Yeah. They'd have just been able to mail rings to the Dallas office for 10 years. All right. Moving on. Wide receiver. I don't think any of us will argue this list at all. Jerry Rice, number one. And then the runners up, again, I can't argue with this, Randy Moss and Don Hudson. Jeremy, fellas, Jeremy, Christian, do we have any arguments here with this list? I think we can all in unison say no.
I like the fact that we add Don Hudson.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think T.O. should have had a mention, honorable mention. I do. Yeah, I think people are just scared of that man. He had his own issues, right? We don't got to talk about that, but he struck fear in defenses. They didn't know what to do.
Okay.
I'll just leave it at that.
I can respect that argument. I can. But yeah, Jerry Rice is in his again, the same point we were having on the running back, right? It was very even. The wide receiver list, it was almost not even worth having the other two guys on there because I think they both got one vote apiece.
Yeah, we know who the best is. There's no argument that it's Jerry Rice.
Yeah.
That's not what we're arguing at all. I'm talking about throw someone else on the runner-up list,
Could you imagine what Jerry Rice would have done in today's league, with the defensive players not being able to really fuck with the wide receivers as much? Like, could you imagine the numbers he'd have if he was – it would be scary. It would be video game numbers, in my opinion.
Now, Don Hudson played in the 50s, and he was considered the GOAT all up until Jerry Rice. That's how good Don Hudson was.
Yeah. I had to look him up. I'll be honest with you. I didn't know shit about him. And then when I saw him on the list, I looked him up, and I said, wow, okay, why don't we talk more about this dude? Like, he was legit.
Yeah. He had all the records.
Because it was more like backyard football then? That's probably why. Look, now football is football. It wasn't the same. That's why.
I get you. Christian is uncivilized in his.
I count the old school.
It wasn't about money, then it really wasn't, it was just about having fun. It was just playing a game. It's a little bit different.
I respect any man who goes out and plays football in a leather helmet. I'm just saying, like, that's you know what I mean? Like, I can't play in the turkey
face mask.
Man, look, please. And the pads they had back then was almost non-existent. Yeah.
Right.
Wearing couch cushions. All right. This next one, I don't know if I agree with it, but we're going to get into it. They got listed Rob Gronkowski listed as the GOAT at tight end. There are several runners up. So we got Tony Gonzalez, Kellen Winslow Sr. I want to make that distinction. Mike Ditka, Antonio Gates, Ozzie Newsome, and Shannon Sharp. Jay, what do you think of that list, and do you agree with it?
I actually agree with the Gronk being the GOAT, just because when you're a tight end, I expect you to block on top of receiving. And when it comes to blocking, hands down, he was the best blocker on that list. And arguably, he would be up there as one of the best receivers on the list. See, Shannon Sharp is probably the better receiver, but all around tight end, I think Gronk's the GOAT.
Okay, so you agree with the NFL on this one, Christian? What are your thoughts on the list, and what do you agree with?
Shout out to Shannon Sharp. First of all, I love watching that man on TV.
Much love to him. And have you seen him? He still looks like he can ball right now.
Oh yeah,
that dude.
No. The Browns need somebody. Shannon Sharp. Hey, you want to get to the Super Bowl? Come on, Shannon Sharp can play. He don't want to. He's old. He probably hurts a little bit in the morning when he gets up, but he looks great. Look, Rob's the best because he played with Tom Brady. And they had a system, that's his boy. Look, it's a product of that system. If he went somewhere else, I don't necessarily know that he would have been as standout as he is. I think we can all agree Rob Gronkowski is not really – he's not a typical football player. He's some frat boy, partier who likes to play football on the weekends because he's good at it. And he's got his boy Tom Brady to make sure he's going to get what he needs.
That's what the typical football player used to be.
Right.
That's why I like him.
Oh, I like him too. Look, no. Rob, you want to have a beer? Let's go. I'll party with him. No problem.
I'll say this. His entire family looks like they can play tight end in the NFL.
Correct.
His sisters included. Everybody in his family is over 6'3", over 200. I mean, the Gronks are the tight ends, of the NFL. I will say this for my money and what I've seen watching. I can't argue the Gronk comparison, so I'm not going to argue him being number one. My favorites, I would say, were Kellen Winslow Sr. and Tony Gonzalez. To me, Kellen, I argue he was even an even better receiver than Shannon Sharp because he played in a different era. Shannon Sharp was kind of the last of the Mohicans when it comes to taking those hits, and you can't argue numbers, right? But Tony Gonzalez, man, I felt bad for him. He was on some teams that they were like the Luther's curl every time he got on team. He just not all the way, but if I was picking and I had a choice between Gronk and Tony, I'd take a healthy Tony for my money over Gronk any day of the week, just because I've seen that dude play, and he was the truth.
To wrap up the tight end conversation, what week this season do you think that Tom Brady going to call him and ask him to come back and he'll start playing again?
That call's already happened, bro. That call's already happened, and they're planning a comeback. That's all it is.
He's got to be.
The right time.
He's got to be. Week 6. That's my guess.
Yeah. Tom is like, hey, look, you saw all them diamonds on the last ring, right? Let's get it. Come on, bro. Offensive tackle. Now the linemen. We get to the big uglies. Most people do not respect or even talk about linemen. I love them to death because you can't have football without them, right? Offensive tackle. I actually agree with this one. Anthony Munoz. The runners-up are Jonathan Ogden, Orlando Pace, Walter Jones, Jackie Slater, Forrest Gregg, Willie Rofe, Joe Thomas, and Gary Zimmerman. Christian, what are your thoughts, man? Do you agree with that list?
Yeah, I do. And there are a lot of good offensive linemen. Let's make that very clear. It's like you said, football wouldn't be football without them. And it's tough. These dudes are the ones that you see typically having a lot of brain injuries too, because it's every down. They're getting hit. They're having to stop these big ass grown men from getting past them. And it's every play. It's not occasionally. It's not okay. Well, wide receiver might get hit. That's not it. It's all respect to them. I think it's hard to rank them statistically like you do with skill positions. But no, I don't think you're going to argue that. They're all great.
Jay, what do you think?
Yeah, actually, I agree with Christian about it's kind of hard to gauge how to list the offensive line guys, but Anthony Munoz, I mean, he's a legend, so ain't too much debate when it comes to Anthony Munoz. Personal favorite, I always liked Willie Rofe. Back when he was playing with the Saints, he was just unstoppable, but he was more of a technician, and Jonathan Ogden was just a big, huge guy.
That dude is scary.
Huge.
Him and Orlando Pace.
Anthony Munoz, he was combined. He was big, but he also had the technique.
Yeah. And when I say I agree with this list, I agree with it not that I agree that Anthony Munoz is the best. I agree that he is a legend.
Right.
What I agree with is everybody on the list is a GOAT as far as I'm concerned,
Agree.
right? Because when you look at all of those guys, their resumes are impeccable, right?
Right.
Like, you know, if you had to, if you had any group of five of those guys on a line,
You
your
good.
quarterback, your quarterback would have the cleanest jersey in the NFL. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
these guys are the guys. You know what I mean? So I agree there. Offensive guard, we got Larry Allen as the number one guy. He's the GOAT. Then we got John Hanna, Gene Upshaw, Bruce Matthews, Alan Faneca, Steve Hutchinson, Randall McDaniel, Jim Parker, and Jerry Kramer. Jay, what's your thoughts on that, man? Guard.
Larry Allen, me personally, I like Gene Upshaw more than Larry Allen because Gene Upshaw was he pretty much invented the pulling guard when he was playing
Yeah,
on the Raiders.
yeah.
Larry Allen, he was more dominant because of his size. He was just a freak when it comes to size and speed. But calling Larry Allen number one, come on, who can't debate that neither?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, another legend. Christian, what do you think, bro?
I got nothing. I'm with you guys all the way. I think Gene Upshaw would be my pick, but how are you going to differentiate that? I don't have an argument. That's just a personal preference at that point.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. To me, when I saw it, I thought Gene Upshaw was going to be hands down number one. But again, it's one of those things where I can see the Larry Allen argument, and I can't really argue it enough. But yeah, I would swap those two out. But other than that, it's just hard to argue. Center, we got Mike Webster. Runners up are Jim Otto, Chuck Bednarik, DeMonte Dawson, Dwight Stevenson, and Mel Hine. Christian, what you think, man?
The only position you got to make sure you're blocking the same as the rest of them and making sure your quarterback don't look stupid when you hand him the ball. I'm happy with that list. I'll give it to Mike Webster. He can be the GOAT.
Jay, do you agree with that?
Yeah, it's just sad that Mike Webster he had to pay the cost to be the GOAT. He's like the most famous guy with the CTE.
Yeah. What was it? He's the most severe case of CTE that has been found up to this point, right? So
This man was literally crazy gluing his teeth back into his mouth.
right.
Like I told you, these linemen, they're taking hits every play. It's worse for them, in my opinion. And I think the studies are showing that.
Much respect to Mike Webster, RIP to one of the GOATs. For my money, I would have put Chuck in there, but again, it's one of those things. It's the offensive line, and it's crazy because to me, of the ones that are the GOAT lists that you can come up with, right? The offensive line is pretty much one of those subjects where everybody that's on the list could be the GOAT
Right.
at that position, right? Because I don't think people, again, give the offensive line enough respect. Let's face it, the center, to me, is probably one of – I know people say the left tackle is the most important position on the line. I think the center is the most important position on the football field because you're literally the quarterback of the team. The quarterback is the one running the plays, but, the center is making sure everybody's in place, right? He even has to check the quarterback sometimes, right? Let's face it. So, for me, I gave it to Chuck, but I can't argue Mike Webster, and what he meant to the game. All right. So we've wrapped up offense. I think other than, quarterback, we kind of agree just about on every position, shout out to Rex Grossman being the GOAT. Let's get him a trophy.
Yo, but before we go into defense, I do have an honorable mention for offense.
Go right ahead. Let me hear it.
That's you might not heard of him. He's super old school, but it's slinging Sammy Barr.
Oh yeah,
This is from like the 40s. This man Sammy Barr in one game threw 4 touchdowns and caught 4 interceptions. Played quarterback, running back, cornerback, kicker, and punter. Till this day, he's still second in all time in punts per yards per punt. He's still number 2. So I got to give him props.
Okay, I respect that. Christian, you got anybody you wanted to add to the offensive list you didn't see on there? Any position?
No, I'm happy. I'm happy. I didn't
Yeah.
know about the little tidbit though, so I appreciate that, Jay.
Singing Slammy.
Look at Jay dropping knowledge on us this morning. Man,
I just mean he's old. That's all I mean.
hey, those gray hairs are earned, sir. You will
That's
respect
right.
that beard. All right. On the defensive side of things, let's try to get. I think this is just it's pretty clear. Edge rusher. Now, back then there was actually a linebacker, but in today's world, edge rusher. Lawrence Taylor. Runners up are Reggie White, Bruce Smith, and J.J. Watt. Do we have any arguments there, fellas? Go ahead, Christian.
No. And if you ask me which one I would want, I'd be happy to have any 4 of them. But no, Lawrence Taylor. Yeah, no, we're good.
Jay.
Oh, come on, LT all the way. He's the man.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, Lawrence Taylor is the edge rusher. You know what I mean? And he literally changed how offensives play or scheme against defenses, right? Yeah. So it's the Jerry Rice conversation all over again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Lawrence Taylor and then everybody else is just kind of fighting for number 2. Defensive tackle. I got something to say about this one. Aaron Donald was ranked number 1. We got the runners-up: Joe Green, Deacon Jones, Alan Page, John Randall, and Warren Sapp. Jay, what you think about that list, and do you agree?
I think it's close, but I think Donald, he's making waves. I'll give it to him right now. I can see that.
Now, right now, but all time, you got him all time.
I mean, if he's the best player on his team, and he got him to the chip, and undoubtedly, I mean, who's better on defense right now as we speak?
Oh man, no, right now, yeah, no.
Because to me, he's similar to LT. He's like, he's on defense, and I'm going to get you a chip by being a defender. That's rare. So I got to throw him on that list.
All right. And Christian, what do you agree?
I do agree. I do want to add in, I think my favorite on this list is Warren Sapp. And that's probably because I lived in Florida. I lived in Tampa for a couple of years, and he was still playing, and it's all anyone talked about, So that's my personal favorite, but yeah, I agree with Jay. We'll give it to Donald. I think he's there at this point.
Warren Sapp is the biggie of the NFL. He put fat, ugly dudes on the map. I'm trying to tell you. You know what I mean? Like, he made it cool, man.
They used to have the lineman competition, and Warren Sapp will always win in bench press.
Yeah. I don't think
Tony Baselli.
Now he's on the runners-up list, but I want to add that he was last. He only got 1 vote. But I want to say, because of that, I think it's disrespectful to put him that far down, right? When you look at what he did over his career and who he was playing against, like he played against some dogs on the offensive line.
Sure.
And Warren Sapp was a beast. For my money, I would have put Deacon Jones up there. But again, I can't argue Aaron Donald. I really can't.
Like, AJ, doesn't he lose money? Doesn't he lose money all the time?
Who?
Nips. He loses money all the time. He's talking he was about putting money. I'm just checking. All right. I'm just making sure. Look, I want to make sure we're on the same page.
Here we go.
For his money. The money he lost this weekend.
I lose money on NASCAR and boxing. Get out of here with that. All right.
He don't even watch NASCAR. What's he betting on NASCAR for?
On that defensive end and tackle list, there's something odd. Me personally, I think Reggie White is more of a tackle than an end, and Deacon Jones isn't a tackle. He's an end. How can you put a Deacon Jones as a tackle when he invented the word sack? If anybody's an edge rusher, it's Deacon Jones.
I think they're looking at it more in today's game, right? Like, where would these guys line up in today's game as opposed to maybe where they naturally played. And that's the only thing I can think of. I agree with you. Like, to me, having Lawrence Taylor listed as an edge rusher, I'm like, he played linebacker. Let's be really clear. Now, in today's NFL, yeah, he'd be an edge guy, but he played linebacker. Like, I never looked at him as a lineman. I looked at him as a
In today's NFL and yesterday's NFL, Deacon Jones played defensive end. He's an end regardless how you swing it. Reggie White played tackle and end, but I never considered Reggie White a edge rusher.
no. I'll say this, right? If we're talking defensive lineman, period, I think
Reggie White.
I think they separated these just to give more guys some flowers. If I'm being honest, you know what I mean? Because I mean, they didn't put nose tackle on here. They didn't, you know what I mean? Like, they didn't, so I think they're just kind of saying, hey, these are the guys we're going to give flowers to, because they didn't put more defensive line positions on there. It's just defensive tackle and edge rusher.
Right. No Derek Thomas?
Right. I mean, there are a lot of people not on the list that could be. What I'll say is this. I mean, you could make an argument for, again, this is another one of those positions where you can make an argument for just about everybody on the list, even the runners up. My only argument on this list is that Warren Sapp deserves a little bit more love than one vote. For my my money, Christian, that I lose all the time. Anyway, linebacker. This has the most players listed. They listed Ray Lewis as the GOAT. Runners up are Dick Butkus, Mike Singletary, Jack Lambert, Ted Hendricks, Chuck Bednarik, Derek Brooks, Bill George, Ray Nitschke, and Junior Seau. I would like to just make a special note that Chuck Bednarik is the only player who shows up on this list on offense and defense.
That's the
both
50s.
runners up, but the fact that he's on the list twice should let you know what kind of player this dude really was. Do we agree with Ray Lewis, Christian? What's your thoughts?
Yep. I got nothing to say. Yes, sir. Do not let that man touch me. No.
Nobody wanted that smoke.
No, thank you. Here's the ball. Here you go, sir. Don't hit me. No.
Yeah. Jay, what do you think, man?
I agree 100%. Ray Lewis is the man. But to add on to Chuck Bednarik, this man Chuck Bednarik, imagine this: you going to the Korean War, then coming back to play football. Football ain't shit as soon as I came back from a war.
Right.
So I'm playing offensive line and linebacker. That ain't nothing.
Yeah. For me, just because he did play both sides of the ball, I think I think there's a place to put those guys, right? Like, the guys
better than the rest of them.
Right. Yeah. Because let's face it, I mean, Christian, you cover college football. The man's got an award named after him, right? You know what I'm saying? And I think
of it like people always complain about LeBron not playing defense anymore, right? I know we're switching sports, but it's because he puts everything into the offense. These dudes that do this are giving everything on both sides. That's why he's on a list on both sides of the ball.
That's crazy.
Like, that's crazy. It is. It's wild.
Yeah, I think you could put Chuck in his own category just because he's even mentioned. Because you look who he's mentioned against, right? Let's Ray Lewis, Dick Butkus, Mike Singletary, Lambert, Derek Brooks. There's your guy, right? Derek Brooks. Chuck is mentioned in that era, and he's a guy who played both sides of the ball. Like, that should tell you again.
We should have a both sides of the ball GOAT. That's what we should have.
That for another day. We should do that list.
I'm gonna call ESPN after this.
We already got them both. We got Chuck Bednarik and we got Sammy Ball. We already got them both.
There it is. I'm not gonna disagree with Ray Lewis because I don't want none of that smoke if I ever meet the man. Yes, sir.
Oh,
You were the best, sir. Um, I want to mention that my team is the only team with two players on that list. I want to appreciate, Buckets and Singletary. Um, yeah, I can't argue that. I can't argue the list. I really can't. Junior Seau, much love and appreciation. I love the fact that they did put him on there. I think again he's another one of those guys because he didn't win a ship early on in his heyday that he didn't get a lot of love. But Junior Seau, he played that position with a lot more love than most players did. So I want to give him his flowers as well.
that list I want to mention, they give no love to outside linebackers. Edge rusher, they mentioned Lawrence Taylor, and this linebacker list are all middle linebackers.
I think that's mainly due to the fact. I mean, because again, you could put a lot of outside linebackers on this list, right? You know what I mean? I think it's because again, we're looking at it. These are the sexy picks. Middle linebacker is the quarterback on the defense, right? So I think they're just giving them more flowers than everybody else. But again, we're going to say Ray Lewis because we don't want that smoke.
That's right.
Not more flowers. They get no flowers. Outside linebackers got no flowers. They're not even mentioned.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I'm going to say
Arguably,
Ray
it's
Lewis.
more of a skill position as well. But we're going with Ray. That's fine.
We're going with Ray. Mr. Lewis, if you're listening, you won, sir. All right. Cornerback, I don't have any problems with any person on this list or how it was voted, but I want to get you guys' take. Cornerback Deion Sanders is number one. Prime time himself. Then we got the runners-up. Charles Woodson, Rod Woodson, Darrell Reeves, Champ Bailey, Mel Blount, Mike Haynes, and Night Train Lane. Fellas, Christian, let me hear it, man.
Neon Deion Sanders. That's a man. That's a man. And I love that list of runner-ups. They're all great. But Sanders is a step above, in my opinion. Just a notch up there. He's by far the greatest. I've got no argument on that.
Okay. I will agree with you for the most part, but I want to hear what Jay has to say on this. He's over there.
I'm giving mine to Night Train Lane.
I knew you was going to
because Night Train Lane was not a liability when it came to tackling. Night Train Lane would give you the forearm to the forehead when it was legal.
Yeah.
But back in the days when you was playing the Cowboys in Frisco, you run a sweep Deion's way, Deion might be tucking his tail. Who knows? So he had a weakness. That's all I'm saying. Everything else, he was better than anybody in anything.
Did you watch his Hall of Fame speech? And he mentioned that tackling, right? He said, people said I didn't tackle. He said, yeah, I did. I tackled every bill my mama ever put in my face. and I had to respect that. I was like, hey, okay. I'll say this. To me, it's Deion Sanders, and it's not close because I think he could have played in any era, right? I think he could have played back, when it was rough and tumble. I think he could play today. In his prime, he could play today, and there'd be one side of the field to throw the ball to, right? Plus, what gives Deion Sanders the notch against everybody else is they ranked, I want to say this was like 10, maybe 15 years ago, they gave the rankings for best defensive or cornerback tandems in the NFL, right? The NFL films when they do their top 10 list or whatever. Deion Sanders was listed as number 4 himself. They literally said Deion Sanders and whoever's playing on the other side. They said Deion and whoever he's playing with was number 4. They didn't say Deion and this guy. They said Deion and whoever's on the other side.
Just fill in the name.
Pull him off the street. Doesn't matter.
And because he was the only person. Now you're not going to stop Jerry Rice, but he's the only person I would even consider putting on Jerry Rice to defend him in any shape, form, or fashion in an actual game, and he did it pretty decently. He still got torched because it's Jerry Rice, but who else on that list are you going to put on Jerry Rice in coverage and expect him to do anything? Yeah,
right.
Exactly. No, otherwise
I will say this though.
Triple team all day long.
Right. I will say this though. I would the only problem I have with it is I would put Rod Woodson as a safety as more than a corner. Just because I think
I thought of him more of a corner.
You did? I thought of him more of a safety. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I know both him and Charles played safety later on, but I thought Rod was more of a Darrell Revis. I get it. He Revis Island. All right, but Deion's the man.
Night Train Lane.
There it is. That's Jay's peak. Night Train. Plus, that's one of the best names, right? Night Train Lane. Like, yeah.
And let's not forget, I mean, he did win a championship for Detroit Lions. That's hard to do.
That's damn near impossible to
do. Just for that, he should be the GOAT, right? Hey, safety, Mr. Ronnie Lott, number 42. Runners up, Ed Reed, Brian Dawkins, Paul Krause, and Troy Polamalu. Jay, what do you think of that list, and do you agree with it?
I disagree. I'm taking Ed Reed number 1.
Ed Reed,
number 1.
Ronnie Lott. Okay, let me hear that.
Well, of course, Ronnie Lott could tackle. He's number 1. He's the best. But when we come to safeties, when we talk about ball hawking skills, how much he psyched out Peyton Manning during his career to show you his intelligence, to me, this is second to none. This is I don't even think it's close. I think Ed Reed is far and beyond everybody else. Okay.
I can't argue with that. He was a ball hawk. You know what I mean? You saw the ball. You saw Ed Reed. That's kind of a hard argument for me. But Christian, do you agree with Jay, or you think the NFL got it right?
That's tough. Damn, that's tough. Y'all make that real tough on me. I'm telling you. How are you going to go wrong either way? How are you going to go wrong either way? If I walked up and said, "Hey, you want Ronnie Lott on your team?" Hell yeah, I do. What do you mean? Okay. Well, what about? Sorry, he's not available. What about Ed Reed? Yeah. What do you mean? Give him to me. What are you saying?
Yeah.
Shit, I don't know. I'd be happy either way. All of them tremendous players. Even down the list, you can't argue with that. I'll say I'm okay with them saying Ronnie Lott. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of dentists that owe Ronnie Lott money because he sent a lot of dudes to he was knocking feelings out a lot. No pun intended. For me, Ronnie Lott was just, I loved watching him play. I'm a defensive guy. I like seeing dudes on defense just knocking the snot out of people. And Ronnie Lott did that he did it almost as good as most linebackers were doing it. You know what I mean? Like he was dirty, and I loved it. But Jay brings up a good point now that you think about it, though, man. Like Ed Reed, though, like I wouldn't throw the ball in Ed Reed's zip code. You know what I'm saying? Like, the boy. So it's
if he was number 1 on the list, I wouldn't argue it either. That's where I stand. I don't know how you can do that.
Can we do a 1A 1B kind of situation? Like
they're not breaking it down like free safety, strong safety. So they're just saying safety.
Yeah, just.
But
safety.
What would you rather deal with? Would you rather deal with getting hit or getting turned over?
Depends on who.
Because Ed Reed is going to pick six you. Ed Reed is going to pick six you. Ronnie Lott is going to take you out the game.
I mean, if you ask the receivers, I'm pretty sure they don't want to get hit. If you ask the quarterbacks, they don't want to get picked off. So I think it's
Right.
you got to flip a coin on that. Like, you know, let's to that point, right? If you're a wide receiver, who are you more afraid of, Ed Reed or Ronnie Lott?
Oh, Ronnie Lott.
Oh, yeah. Ronnie Lott.
Because look, if Ed Reed picks the ball off, I'm blaming it on my quarterback. Like, well, you shouldn't have thrown me the ball, or you should have thrown it better. You know, you'd have an argument there. But no, ain't nobody trying to get hit by come on.
If I'm a wide receiver and Ronnie Lott's on my side of the field and the quarterback throws me the ball, I'm cussing him out when I get back to the. Did you see 42? Why did you throw me the ball? You know what I mean? But if I'm a quarterback to that point, I'm more afraid of Ed Reed, right? Because he's gonna pick me off 9 times out of 10. All right, so these are the guys that don't get a lot of love, right?
Oh,
the kickers and punters. So they got Adam Vinatieri as number 1 GOAT. The runners-up are Justin Tucker, Ray Guy, another guy who has a college football award named after him, and Morton Anderson, who doesn't get a lot of love. Oh, the old man,
the OG,
the OG. Jay, what do you think Adam Vinatieri is the dude?
I got to give it to Tucker.
Off of accuracy, or because you like
he got 2 records. He got accuracy, and he got the furthest field goal in history. I mean, what else do you need to do to be the GOAT?
Okay.
How about being the most career points scored leader? What about that? Maybe you should do that.
Uh-oh.
But
Homer. He's playing.
But the points are determined. The points are determined by the offense to get you in the field goal position. The kicker ain't got nothing to do with that. Because I'm pretty sure Adam Vinatieri, he can't hit no 62-yard field goal.
Now, do we just go off of what they did on the field or what they meant to the game? Because
I always go by what you did on the field. Everything else you can't determine anything else. You can only do what you do on the field. Everything else is not up to you.
I'm going to give you a guy. I don't think he's the best, but I think he should have been honorable mention. And just I know I'm going to catch hell for this, but just bear with me and hear me out. Sebastian Janikowski. And the reason I bring that up, right? Hold on, wait a minute. I don't think now. Do I think he's better than any of those guys on the list? No. But what I will say is this: he changed the kicker position, and the reason I say that is nobody before him, as far as a kicker, was getting multi-million-dollar deals. Now let's he was kicking it far, before it was cool to do that. Like he was kicking 60-yard field goals before everybody else. Do I think Justin Tucker's better than him? And do I think Adam Vinatieri's better than him? Yes. But now guys want to play that position because of the money he generated for kickers, right? So do I think, again, is he one of the top guys? No, but I think he's honorable mention because now guys want to play that position because of what Janikowski came. I think he was one of the first kickers to be drafted, high anyway. And then, he starts making millions of dollars that kickers weren't making before. You know what I mean? Now you got guys
kicking a ball.
Now you got guys in high. Think about it. When you played high school football, how many players on your team wanted to be the kicker?
Nobody. You went and got someone from the soccer team to be the kicker.
I think
man, you mind coming up on Fridays and kicking for us? That's how that works.
But now guys are saying, hey, I can make millions of dollars in the NFL kicking the ball. Now you got dudes joining the football team to kick. That wasn't happening before. I'm just saying. I know he's not on the list.
I don't agree with that.
No,
because if you're saying that he's the reason that there's more people want to be kicker, how come the current kickers suck?
I didn't say they were all good.
The accuracy is less than what it used to be, so he ain't helping. He's making it worse.
I didn't say all the guys who wanted to try it were good. I just said
So
more guys want to try it.
all I need is to have some swag and kick it far, and maybe I could get a contract. No, we don't need that.
No, there's dudes on TikTok you see kick 75-yard kicks. You know,
And they're not in the league.
No, they ain't in the league, and there's a reason for it.
What's that one dude who was doing the YouTube videos? What's his name? Kickalicious or something like that. What was that his name? He was the guy who does all the trick.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, you can do all that, but you still ain't on an NFL team.
Right.
No.
Ray Guy was a first round pick.
Oh yeah. And has an award named after him, right?
That's right.
So yeah, I mean, if we're looking GOAT status, to me it's Ray Guy, and I don't think it's close, right? I think Morton Anderson gets love for me just because he's the OG and he played a long ass time, but for me it's
Y'all
Ray
been
Guy.
drinking today?
Look, man, hey,
I'm just asking because
Christian, who you got?
y'all can both be wrong.
Who you got?
It's Vinatieri. What do you
Yeah,
mean?
he said it.
I got?
Yeah,
Why?
he's arguing.
Why?
That is like I said, he's got the most points of anybody. Now keep in mind, top 25 of that are all kickers, first of all. You know, he played for how long did he play? 20.
Yeah, he played 20 plus.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Justin Tucker's
and you
not
talking
done.
about he can't kick 62. Hold on. You say he can't kick. So his longest was 57.
Right.
He could kick it 62.
Then how come he did it?
Okay. Look.
You mean to tell me you're going to play for 20 plus years, but you never kick 62, but you're saying he can? Then how come he didn't? He had 20 plus years to do it.
Sorry, my offense got him closer than he needed to be.
To his defense, though, he did play on teams that didn't need him to kick 62-yard field goals either. If we're being honest, right? Like, you know what I mean?
But somebody's more accurate and got a better boot. How can you not be number one?
How much more accurate? Give me the stats.
He's number one.
Okay, but how much more accurate? What is the percentage?
I don't know, but he's number one. If you're number one in accuracy and distance, I can't dispute that you're not the best.
Okay, but what if someone came in for 1 year, was more accurate, and had a longer kick, never played again? They'd go.
But he's not that. He's not that. That's a false equivalency.
I'm just saying.
Justin Tucker's been the man ever since he's been in the league. And okay, who's the best? Who's the best right now?
I would just like to say that we need to respect the fact that the most heated argument we've had so far
is about the kicker. Yeah, absolutely.
All these other positions, even the quarterback one wasn't as heated as what we got going on right now. I love it. Go ahead. All right.
Hey, Justin Tucker. Well, I mean, Adam Vinatieri, I give him 2. But if somebody says Adam Vinatieri, I mean, that's just a matter of opinion. I can't say no. You're absolutely wrong.
This is a matter of opinion. There's a reason he's up there because that's the majority opinion. So it's all right. You can be wrong. It's no problem.
And again, we're talking about the kicker.
Now notice.
I don't care if we're talking about McDonald's versus Burger King. If Jay wants to be wrong, let the man be wrong. And you too, for that matter.
The same people who picked Adam Vinatieri to be number one didn't pick your guy Terrell Owens, and he named Reggie White as an edge rusher, and he's not one. And also named Deacon Jones as a tackle, and he's an edge rusher. So there's a lot of flaws on this list.
That doesn't make you less wrong. You just point out that they don't know what they're talking about either.
That means that you're agreeing with somebody that's inaccurate, and I'm showing you the inaccuracies. That's all.
No, I'm saying for sure they got this one right. That's where I stand.
So this might be the only position in which we all disagree. Yeah. And you're both wrong, but okay. Moving on.
Oh Lord. Gotta have the last word. Okay. All right.
Hey. As long as it sounds good, right? I just again have to point out the fact that the most heated argument we had on this entire show so far was over who is the best kicker or punter in the NFL.
Right.
Wow. All right. The final position that was considered by the NFL is on special teams as well. It's the returner or special teamer. Now they did so special teams in general outside of the kickers, right? Devin Hester, number one. Shot-town, runners up, Dion, Gail Sayers, Brian Mitchell, Matthew Slater, Steve Tasker, and Desmond Howard. Christian, do you agree with that list? And what are your points?
I'm cool with the list given what the category is. I don't like the category. I don't like that you're looking at returners and just anyone on a special teams unit. That doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, Devin Hester all the way. We're good.
Okay, you can't say that and then not elaborate. You don't think special teams is important, or you just
no. Let me clarify. Returner versus special teams unit. Those are to me. Those are two separate things. Just because you catching the ball and getting some yards per return does not mean that's included in the guys who are blocking kicks, making plays happen. To me, that should be two separate categories. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Okay.
I'm just saying it should be two separate categories. But if we're going to keep it this way, we're good. I'm good with that.
Okay. I respect that. Yeah, I did agree with that too. When I first saw this, I was like, well.
Yeah, not a good category. They just kind of lumped it in there just because it looks like.
To me, it's like saying receivers and offensive players. Like, okay, well, hold on a minute.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, I get. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, that's all.
Jay, do you agree? What's going on with you?
Yeah. I mean, I agree with Christian 100%. I mean, they
he
matched
does
everybody.
think that Vinatieri is the best kicker. That's what he said.
They matched everybody in, but definitely Hester's number one. That goes without question. Defensively, you got to give some props to Steve Tasker for Buffalo for all them years. And also, I would like to see Jackie Slater Jr. to get some love on the Patriots, because he's been the special teams captain ever since he came into the league. He's been a Pro Bowler all those years. But it's more glamorous when you're catching and running, and you're running back return. So Hester's the man.
And I didn't even think about this until right now. So pardon me for not having this readily available. But what was the boy's name? I think he played for Kansas City. They called him the human joystick. What was his name? Oh my goodness!
Is it Dante Hall?
Is that him? He was they called him the human joystick. You might be right. I think that sounds about right.
Yeah, that is who you're referring to.
Dante Hall. That was a bad man. But yeah, Devin Hester is correct.
There, but come on, Hester's the man. Come on, Hester.
Yeah, Devin Hester to me, and again, I know this is going to sound like I'm a homer because I'm a Bears fan. He's quite literally the only returner to return the opening kickoff of a Super Bowl back for a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
And Tony Dungy has actually been referred to in his interviews as the guy who kicked it to Devin Hester. Like, you know what I mean? And Tony Dungy's in the Hall of Fame, period. And to be referred to as the guy who kicked it to Devin Hester should tell you exactly where Devin Hester ranks on this list. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think it. And plus, again, I go back to, did you change your position, right? Like the Deons of the world, right? They changed how you viewed and played the position. The Lawrence Taylors, they changed how you viewed and played the position.
Adam Vinatieri. Yeah.
Oh, here he is not going to let go of the Adam Vinatieri argument. I'm trying to tell you. I'm going to give it to you, Christian, just because the NFL sided with you. However, you're wrong. Anyway, but you look at Devin Hester. They literally changed the rules on returns because, and I remember Lovie Smith the year after they changed the kickoff rules. He said, "Taking our offense away from us," because let's face it, if it wasn't for Devin Hester, the Bears would have never went to the Super Bowl that year.
Right.
And it was Isaiah McKenzie.
Teams were literally saying...
It was Isaiah McKenzie, by the way. That's the human joystick.
The human joystick? So
that's not Isaiah McKenzie. That's not Isaiah McKenzie. 100%. It's not him.
That's what Google says.
Was it?
Google Brian.
So who's
I
Dante
don't know.
Hall?
I looked it up.
Dante Hall was the guy though, right? The one we're talking about was it? I want to say it was the Chiefs, right? He was the Chiefs guy.
Yeah, you're thinking about Dante Hall. That's who you're thinking about.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
You have Dante Hall correct as far as what happened, but he's not the human joystick, is what I'm telling you.
Oh, well,
Yeah, he is.
She's chiming in. She's right. I learned never to argue with a woman, especially a Puerto Rican. So it's the Ray
She
Lewis.
also thinks that Adam Vinatieri is the best kicker. I'm just throwing that there.
Oh, here, you know what? Look, man, we gonna have a segment.
I'm gonna just
just
mute
on that
you,
one.
bro. Just keep going. I'm gonna.
We could have a whole argument on apparently on the kicker argument because apparently Christian will not let go of the Adam Vinatieri argument.
I mean, Wikipedia says Dante Hall, human joystick.
Yeah.
Also known as the X Factor as well.
Well, that's who we were talking about, you know, and I would say that I don't think he's better than Devin Hester, but I think he should be honorable mention on the list. Yeah, because he was another one of those guys you did not want to kick the ball to at all. You know what I mean? I think you can kind of combine him in the Devin Hester argument as far as teams were literally having to game plan. What's scarier, giving these guys the ball and potentially them running it back, or just giving the other team the ball at the 40-yard line and let's kick it out of bounds. You know what I mean? Like, that's another thing is, again, you're either giving your team the ball at the 40 or you're getting a touchdown when we talk about Devin Hester. Teams were literally saying, yeah, if you there was a special teams coordinator who lost his job because they kicked the ball off to Devin Hester, and he didn't even return it for a touchdown. But the head coach was so livid that he kicked it to him. He was out of there the next week. So there's that part. I think it's Devin Hester by a mile, but I will give you this: the Slater and Tasker conversations. Desmond Howard, I'm kind of on the fence for. Maybe in college, I don't know. Not so much the NFL, but then I think the whatever his nickname is, Dante Hall, needs to be considered.
There's actually a few honorable mentions on these lists I want to throw in.
Go ahead.
Now I respect the old school, so I always got to let the old school people. I got to give them their shine. So first, I'm going to go back to the safeties, and the safety I'm talking about is Larry Wilson, who played for the Cardinals. Larry Wilson invented the safety blitz. 5 first team, NFL first team, 5 times, 8-time Pro Bowler. One game he played with 2 broken hands. He had both of his hands wrapped. They look like a big Q-tips. That game he had 3 interceptions.
Wow.
It don't get no more rugged than Larry Wilson.
Yeah, you got to respect that.
Now the next guy, I'm gonna go back to quarterback, which is Otto Graham, aka Automatic Otto. He went to the championship game 10 years in a row. Won 7 out of 10.
Do we consider Red Auerbach in that?
Who?
I mean, not Red Auerbach. Not that's basketball. What was I talking? Sid Luckman. I was thinking of Sid Luckman.
I don't think Sid Luckman got enough championships to be on the list. Yeah, he's the quarterback for the Bears. I know you're talking about.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, you go 10 straight and you win 7. At least I gotta mention the man.
I got you. I'm with you on that. You say you got a whole list over there. That's what you got?
Yeah, I gotta mention the old school dudes, give them their shine. If I don't, who will?
I will say this, right? And we had this conversation off camera, and I look, I get it. Everybody loves championships. Everybody loves a winner, right? But again, it's one of those things for me where I say, okay, are we just talking about dudes who won a ship? I'm not going to have the Tom Brady argument because I've already said my piece there. But you look at dudes who got there, right? Just like we're having the Peyton Manning argument. He was one of the best, regular season quarterbacks. You could throw, Kelly in there, Jim Kelly in there. You could throw Dan Marino in there. I mean, Dan Marino probably had one of the prettiest passes I've ever seen in my life. Right. Warren Moon, him and Warren Moon, I don't think anybody had a prettier ball than those two dudes, right? Like, and they were dropping dimes. Then you look at dudes who, were just freaks of nature. Now, Michael Vick isn't going to win you a championship, but I mean, quite literally, if you had him on your team in a Madden game,
Change the game of football.
right? He did,
Hey, Lamar wouldn't be playing if it wasn't for him.
yeah. And the boy could throw the length of the field on his knees. Like that was
Yeah.
another thing that was, underrated for Michael Vick is his throwing power. Like there were wide receivers on his team when he played with the Falcons who said they had to wear offensive line mitts or gloves to catch the ball from him because he broke their fingers. Like, with how fast and hard. And we're talking about 40 yards down the field when they're catching this. So, do we consider those guys when we're talking about the GOAT list, or are we just considering the guys who won championships? What do you guys think, Christian?
I don't think you can be the GOAT and not have won at least one. Now, you can change the game, you can revolutionize some things, but I don't think you can be the greatest.
Yeah, I agree.
There's
And
gotta
that's
be
why I wanted to mention those dudes, because these guys are innovators. This is not glamour. Otto Graham went 10 times in a row. Jim Kelly went 4 times in a row. Otto Graham
Yeah.
went 10. How many times did LeBron James go to the championship in a row?
I want to say 8.
You know what I'm saying? That's a hard thing to do, regardless how many times you won. You got there 8 times. That's incredible.
Again, I go back to, you get there a whole bunch of times, but what did you do when you got there, right? And I know a lot of people don't give a shit, but I do. To me, it matters what you do on the biggest stage, right? If and it's the Jordan and LeBron conversation. I'm telling you right now, you get to the ship. I want Jordan playing. I want the ball in Jordan's hands a lot more than I want it in LeBron's hands in the ship because I know I'm going home with a ring, right? I want the ball. Now, you can argue Tom Brady because again, I give him his flowers, but he's beatable in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he lost to Eli. Come on.
Yeah. Right. And to
But
that point,
I think
right?
we're all in agreement to be the GOAT, you do have to have won. I think we're all saying the same thing there.
Yeah.
You
Sure,
can't.
definitely.
Yeah, it takes something to get there, but you're not. That doesn't make you the best. You
Now,
gotta
guys that
be able
didn't
to
get
win.
any love. Now, guys that didn't get any love, I want to get you guys' take on this because they played in a different era where literally it was cool to knock the shit out of the quarterback. Terry Bradshaw, he's got a lot of rings, right? He wasn't even on the list. He didn't get any votes. What do you guys think of guys like him, Johnny Unitas, those guys? These guys, these are guys that won, and they played in an era where it was literally cool to kill the quarterback. Do we put them on the list because they played in a different era, or do we only consider guys like the Tom Brady's who are putting up these astronomical numbers, and winning ships?
Hey, that's why I threw in my mention, because Otto Graham got him beat 10 in a. If you go 10 in a row and you get 7 out of 10, you gotta at least give him a mention. To me, that's more impressive than Terry Bradshaw going 4 for 4.
Terry
I think a
Bradshaw
lot of people
did have that defense too, though. By the way,
Yeah, that's true. A lot of people don't look that far back, though. I think is the problem. It's easy to overlook it. I mean, all these guys are worth mentioning. I don't think that changes our list, but I definitely think that there's some credit that's due, and we should absolutely throw it that way. And I appreciate you bringing it up, but I don't think that changes what we went over.
For sure,
But
definitely.
most people don't even consider it because they just don't look that far back.
Right.
Yeah, to me, it's any conversation you have, right? Like there was recently this. And I thought it was ridiculous, but there was an argument of who's better, Drake or Michael Jackson. The fact that and right, that's the same look you guys are giving me that I had, but the fact that that's even an argument lets you know where the people of today, of our generation, are even thinking, because they're not really considering what Michael Jackson meant or did, right? It's the argument of having the LeBron versus Jordan conversation. To me, the reason that's disrespectful is not because, I'm a homer with Michael Jordan. Is because I'm like, well, hold on, wait a minute. We're skipping over Kobe. First off, that's disrespectful. And I hate the Lakers with a passion. But the fact that we're not saying Jordan versus Kobe, or
Kobe was the closest thing to Jordan.
right, then you look before Jordan. There are guys who were playing this game before Jordan ever came along who were way better than he was, and he'll tell you that, right? Jordan said this. You having the argument of who's the best is strictly what your opinion is. He was like, my only job when I got on the court was to beat whoever was in front of me, right? I'll let you guys decide who's the GOAT. But it's, the for me, it's disrespectful to not even consider these guys that were, changing the game before Jordan came along. Did Jordan change the game in a big way? Yes, of course. We're going to be wearing his shoes, 200-300 years from now, probably. You know what I mean? But
they'd be like holographic fucking help you float and shit. Yeah.
Right.
But he's still gonna be making them, and his family's still gonna be getting a check from that shit from Nike.
Right. But to me that's where it is disrespectful. So I do love the fact that, Jay, you brought that up, because there are, the autograms of the world, the Terry Bradshaws of the world, all these guys who paved the way for the guys that are playing now to play the way that they play now don't get a lot of love. So the fact that they're, we brought them up and gave them their flowers is important too.
And rest in peace to Kobe Bryant.
Yes, and his daughter, and I think there was it like 4 or 5 other people involved in that. So
they're going to court for that now.
Yeah. Kobe Bryant was one of the best people. Also, like he was one of the best people outside of the NBA. Jay, you got any financial stuff to talk about, Mr. I win money every weekend?
Yeah, I'll make this one short. There was a meeting it's called the CPI. So I'm just going to read a quick definition of CPI. That's inflation measured by Consumer Price Index. So technically, they're basing off the stuff that we buy on an everyday basis. If stuff went up in comparison to last year. So there's about 24 categories in the CPI, and 19 out of the 5 went up. So I'm just going to pop this list, and I'm going to break down a couple of joints that went up and a couple that went down. And I'm pretty sure you'll agree, because you go food shopping, you pump your gas, and you like the back of your hand. So what went down? Fuel, more for homes. Airline tickets went down. Gasoline and apparel. So I guess clothing went down. Technically, that's really it. Everything that went up, I'm talking about cereal and bakery goods, non-alcoholic beverages, electricity, dairy, motor vehicle maintenance, food away from your home, rentals, meat, poultry, fish, and eggs, new vehicles, medical care, shelter, hospital, and fruits and vegetables. I'm talking about everything is going up in comparison from last year. So we went up 8.5% from last year. So next month we'll have another CPI report, and we're going to match that up with the inflation rate. Hopefully stuff will go down. But like I say, I mean, in stock, this is a bear market. So when it's a bear market, everything is on discount. So if you can, it's called dollar cost averaging. $5 here, $10 there, $5 here. 2-3 years from now, when we flip it from a bear market to a bull market, the money you put in 3 years is going to be 5 to 10x more than what you put in today. So that's what I've been doing. I've been so bold with it that I quit my job and I'm doing this full time now.
So what you're saying is that I should give you all my money and let you make me a millionaire?
No.
Or what I should do, according to Christian, is every time I go to bet, I should call Jeremy first and say, hey, place these bets for me, because I apparently don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
I mean, because Nigel wants to make 10, 20, 30, 40, 50x. He wants to take $1 and make $500.
Well, the GameStop deal already left. We can't really do that, you know?
That's impossible. You can't do that. Now, me, I'll take $50 and make $40 and I'll have $90 and I'll be happy. You might think it's boring, but that's money.
Okay, first off, you're not gonna come at me with logic, sir. Yeah, we're not gonna do that here. Yeah, no, no, yeah, no. I don't need it to make sense. You know what it is for me. Like if I have an extra $20, to me betting is fun, right? Like I don't look at it as a science. I'm like, okay, if these underdogs win, I win some money. It was $20 I was gonna waste on bullshit anyway. Like, you know what I mean? I was probably gonna DoorDash a $5 hamburger and pay $16.70 for it, just because I didn't want to take my fat ass to Jack in the Box. But if I throw $20 at this guy who probably won't win a fight, but if he does, I win $200. Okay, I can be a lot happier about that than the extra calories that'll be added to my already large behind, with the $16 burger. But I just want to say that I think this was one of the better discussions so far, just because again we're all in consensus that Rex Grossman is the best quarterback of all time. I
And that Adam
appreciate you.
Vinatieri is the greatest kicker. We're here.
Yeah.
Think about this saying real quick. Money won is twice as sweet as money earned. Every time you won money, you always remember it way longer than the money you earned.
That's a bar right there. Yeah.
So when I get that money won, I'm not just going to frivolously be throwing on these NASCAR drivers. That ain't happening over here.
Here we go. Look, so the reason I bet on NASCAR, right? I have absolutely no idea.
You don't even watch NASCAR.
You're absolutely correct, sir.
He's looking at odds. That's all he's doing.
I don't have any idea who any of these guys are, right? Tanya had to tell me who the hell Bubba Wallace was. I didn't even know there was a black. Bro, I didn't even know there was a black dude driving in NASCAR. I was like, there's black people in NASCAR? I didn't know that shit. You know what I mean? How many brothers watching NASCAR? None. So, the only reason I even thought about it was Floyd Mayweather recently created a racing team, and they were horrible. But I was like, oh, okay, well, let me check this out. And I'm looking at the odds. I'm like, well, shit, let me, I put $5 on this dude if he wins. It's great. But yeah, none of those dudes ever win, and there's a reason. But
and that makes you a sucker.
Right. But even the guys that are favored to win have a plus. So I'm like, okay, if I can get plus 600 on a dude that's supposed to win, why not? You know what I mean? The crazy thing is it's hit or miss. If this guy is winning half the race, but then blows a tire, guess what? You just lost. You know what I mean? And this is a guy who should win the race. So to me, it's like, okay, that's the fun part of it. This is a guy who should win, but then, something happens, a wreck, shit like that happens. To me, now that I've looked into it, NASCAR is probably one of the most dangerous sports that seems safe, right? You would think, most people think cars driving around a track, that's not that. But these dudes they're doing what, 200 plus?
Up to 200 miles an hour, typically, yeah.
Right. Those wrecks are ridiculous. Some guys are losing their lives, seriously injured. I think, but, that aside, it's just fun. Yeah, do I lose? Of course. But,
losing ain't fun.
You can come over to the house and watch some NASCAR or what? What are we doing?
No, I'm not going to watch that shit. No. That's fucking. Let's keep it together here, okay? Let's not talk fantasy.
That sounds about right.
We you know what we should do? We should, now that we've gone over the NFL's GOAT list, we should come up with the NFL or the NFL not GOAT list. We should come up with the guys on the other end, like who were the worst?
The worst players ever. Okay.
Hey, who was the worst quarterback?
You serious? You want to do that?
Man, think about
Don't
it.
Start right now. Don't start right now.
Think about this. Think about this. We will probably have more arguments about that list than we did this one, because for the most part we agree. Other than Adam Vinatieri, who.
No, I think we all came to agreement. He's the GOAT.
No, we really didn't. We really didn't. And I can argue the Tom Brady thing, but let's be clear. I'm just being an ass for the show, like Tom Brady, But we can legitimately argue who's the worst. I'm just saying.
Another episode, dude. Another episode.
There it is. There it is. Pretty much any quarterback who's played, for the Giants should be considered. Ooh, yeah. I like that one. She's gonna throw Eli in there. That's her one saving grace. Yeah. Fellas, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for being patient with me this morning, with my theatrics.
Golden Corral.
Yeah.
Turned into the porcelain corral.
Man, woo! I still have a little bit of it. Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much for your patience. I appreciate your opinions. Go Bears. Chi-Town to the fullest. Any closing words before we get out of here? Other than Adam Vinatieri's the GOAT?
Well, I mean, yeah. I give Christian I'll give him that because he got more rings. So I'll concede.
Wow, Christian.
Look at that.
Mark this down. Jay agreed.
I already did. You didn't see?
Yeah. We're going when we do the editing on this. I want that highlighted right there. You can see. All right. Fellas, it's been a pleasure.
Everybody.
It's been Sounds About Right. Y'all take it easy.
Easy.
Peace, guys.